All right, we'll call this meeting of the Facilities Committee to order. The first order of business will be roll call. And we have all the members of the committee present. We'll move on to approval of the minutes from February 22nd. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move.
I'll
second. Any discussion? Fine to me. All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, meetings are accepted. Public comment. Do we have any public comment here? I don't see anyone. Nothing came in via email. Items placed at the chair, we have none. Staff and recreation reports, Fair and Fair Board. Deb, it's good to see you.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, 2 months in a row. So anyway, my color printer isn't working. So I think that's trash. So I didn't want to print it out in black and white, but that's our logo if you can see it. So it's fun for the whole herd. That's the one that we picked, and we ran that contest on Facebook and sent out like little snippets of it, little pieces. And it was kind of like, can you guess what it is? And every day we had a little clue and different things. And we had just a ton of people guessing all this different stuff. And I'm like, Sam and I were talking about it, and I said, hey, there's some more themes we can probably pick out of some of these guesses. So anyway, so you can watch when that comes out. So anyway, it's I think it'll be great for the kids to experiment it with their decorations and their different projects that they do to move along with that. Other than that, Mercedes is helping me get out the commercial vendor lists. She's going to be working on that. I think she was finishing a project and is going to take that on now. And food contracts have been out. Scott will probably cover some of the other changes that we're making as far as I don't, maybe you're not, but I'll let you cover it if you want, but just some other changes so I'll have some help to work through some of these things because it's a big job to get ready for the fair. So I'm extremely glad to have Mercedes help. So just got to get her trained. And sometimes that's the challenge because I have to make the time to sit down and train her and help her with that. So I'm hoping she can help me with fair entry and a lot of different things this summer. So that would really help. But basically that's what we're doing. I'm still missing one entertainment for the free stage, but I think I have that booked. Otherwise, we'll be announcing all of our free stage acts. The Memories, of course, on Sunday. The Chicken Ranch will be there. I think that's what they're called. It's Ferguson from Colfax and another guy that played with the Thrillbillies. They couldn't be there, which was our first choice, but the Thrillbillies were booked. So they have another little offshoot group. And so they're going to be there one night. And then Rich Schrader, who's been a really crowd favorite. And what am I missing? Oh, the one I don't want to say because I don't have a contractor, haven't gotten the final price from them yet. So, but I'll have that filled in later. And we partnered again with Red Cedar Racing for 2 nights of racing plus the demo derby on Sunday. So it pretty much covers the grandstand other than the big NTPA, which will be Saturday night. So they're heavily involved with us at the fair. We've ended up having a pretty good partnership because we, nobody knows that track like they do as far as getting that prep work done and stuff. So it's great to have them be able to help us. So other than that, judges are partially hired. If anybody knows a good dog judge, let me know. Dogs.
Oh, okay.
Dogs. Yeah, I kind of slurred my word there. Sorry. But yep.
Hearing that, you gotta turn it up.
Yep. So dog judges are harder and harder to find, and we have probably one of the best in the state that's leader of our dog project here in the county. So if we can't obviously have her judge because she's their, trainer and helps all those kids. Although last year when there was a death in the family of one of the judges, we actually had her step in and she did judge for us, but it was kind of on an emergency basis. So she probably could judge every fair all over the state every weekend that she could. She's really good. But yeah, other than that, got the guys working on some things to try to figure out for the free stage this year, to try to make that so Ron doesn't have to build a platform at the last minute like he did last year, our great big handyman here. During the fair?
Yeah.
No, you're not. You're my right hand. How can you be?
Vacation. Being at the fair.
Oh, being at the fair. You scared me there. But, yep. So anyway, we're moving along and it'll be here faster than we know. So, yeah. Anybody has any questions or comments?
Fine job.
Oh.
Keep it up.
Well, thanks. Thanks. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Deb.
Yep.
We'll move on to Facilities and Parks Division.
All right, good evening, everyone. Start things out with operations. Things have been going very well. The guys busy completing work orders and working on projects and obviously snow and ice removal as that comes. They're keeping themselves very busy with all that. In all three of the locations, Judicial Center, Government Center, and Neighbors. Projects, they've finished up the ENS reception area, but that pretty much finished up. Probably a couple small details to get finished up yet, otherwise that'll be all taken care of. The doors in Extension and Human Resources have been installed. The sheetrock is up. The next is to finish up the drywall mudding work and then texture. I believe the texture for Extension is going to get done tomorrow evening. And then the guys can work on painting everything, get that looking nice. We can finish those up and then they'll move on to the Human Resources, get those finished up. Then we'll be done with those projects for a while. Fleet. I was in contact with Enterprise about the 2 Chrysler Pacificas that were ordered. And they told me that Chrysler did not take the orders. Chrysler's not taking government orders. And I was a bit confused by it because they told me back in beginning of December that Chrysler wasn't taking government orders. And they told me that they had a dealer that was giving them the allocation of vehicles that the dealer had. And so it looked like we were getting those vehicles. And so now I found this out. So I worked with them some more. They ended up securing 2 Chrysler Voyagers, which are probably a little more optioned out than what the Grand Caravans are. So that's all taken care of. We are getting those. So our 2 vans that we currently have are in the 50-some thousand mile range and they're 2018. So if we keep them too much longer, they're going to start costing us more in maintenance. So I want to get those swapped out. So they're in the process of arranging the transport to get those vans here so we can get those swapped out. And payment on the new vans will remain the same as what we have had on a payment on these other ones for the lease. And they'll be brand new vehicles again. So it'll be a good feeling. I haven't had any official update on the 2 Malibus, but it looks like they're talking about those being built in April. So probably looking at May, we would get those and get them into the fleet. I did include financial reports through February. If anybody has any questions on any of those.
I do, if I may.
Sure.
Okay. Just got a couple questions. At the bottom of the revenue and expense area there. What's CIP?
That's capital improvement projects.
Okay, so that would be like an example. Okay, so in other words,
The,
replace windows, that kind of thing. Okay,
the major projects.
okay. Well, I've got a question in regards to it because all of a sudden I look capital improvement projects and I see year-end total projects, $712,000. And then I see expense 25,000. So that just means we haven't been able to spend that money yet. Is that what I'm understanding?
So you're
If I
like,
go down to
so-
the,
you're looking at the parks. The bottom part is the parks.
oh, okay, all right. So I just goofed that up. Okay, not a problem. So. And year-to-date actual then on that 712,000 is. We haven't spent any of it or,
No, we haven't spent any of that yet.
oh, okay, so we're
Yep.
just waiting for the snow to
Yep.
go. All
Yep,
right.
so you're looking under the total 2023 year-end projections. And you're looking down for facilities is 712,000 on the top section.
Okay, got it.
And none of that has been spent yet. We haven't done any capital improvement projects yet this year.
Okay,
Down in the bottom, 25,000 is budgeted for capital improvements and we haven't done any capital improvement projects yet.
okay, not a problem. I just.
Yep.
Kind of threw me off on that.
Yep.
And then when I'm looking under expense, S and F means. If I move up,
Salary and fringe.
okay, salary and
For the
fringe.
employees.
Okay, so it's 1,016,000. But so far, basically in the first quarter, we've only spent 150,000.
Yes,
Okay. Is it just that we hire more people in the summer then to, use up that allocated dollar amount or?
we only hire 2 seasonals for the summertime for mowing in the parks.
Okay. So is this
Yeah.
just 2 months? Really,
Just
oh,
2
okay,
2 months so far.
all right,
Yes.
then that makes
Yep.
more sense to
Yep.
me at this point.
Yeah, because this is January and February
Okay,
is all that's in here. Once we get through March, then we'll look at having more reporting. We'll have the projections out in April. I'll look
Okay.
with Beata on those and I'll be
All right.
more information for you guys.
not a problem, just looking for clarification.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Good questions.
I had Supervisor Score.
So the things in the parentheses is like money in the bank right now? Or
That would be,
you're just holding it?
so that is like. For example, if you're looking at the parks on the lower section. The total 2023 budget has 50 or 6,500 in the parentheses. That would be. For the rent of the racetrack. From Red Cedar Racing.
Okay.
And so that.
The revenue.
That's a revenue, so yeah, that's what the ones in parentheses would be the revenue,
Oh, okay.
and then your expenses are outside of that, that's what it is, yeah. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks for bringing these financials and forward and
Yeah.
and hopefully we can keep doing it on a regular basis.
Any other questions on them? All right, I'll move on to energy. I did reach out to Abrina about a report on her project. And, I have not gotten a response from her yet. Hopefully, I'll keep trying, hopefully I'll get a response and maybe we can get something set up for April for her to give a report on that project. I started working on, solar stuff. I did get a couple of quotes. For solar at the Menominee Highway Shop. Sent them over the XL Energy bills and they put together a quote on that. Trying to work together as far as with the transit project is a grant funded project. And if we can incorporate the two together, we may stand to save a little more money by having them done at the same time while the crews are here. But the two different quotes that I got, the only difference is where they place the solar panels. The first one I got, they placed the solar panels to the east side of the highway shop. The electricity comes into the highway shop on the west side. So to me, that was kind of backwards, but they placed them inside the fence. In the yard, the shop yard area. And that's something that would have to be considered as far as any future plans at the highway shop. I had them take and do a second one that placed the solar panels to the west, the side that the electricity comes in on. They placed them over into the field that is on the opposite side of the trees. We talked about putting them in the yard on the west side, but then you end up taking out all the trees. So if the best situation would be putting them out into the field, the west side of the row of windbreak trees there. That's another option. I was kind of looking at first to see if they could put all the solar panels for transit and the solar panels for highway all together. And that might be an option. I'm not sure yet as far as with this whole grant, if that's gonna be allowed to add that in there, but I'll keep working with him on that. And then as I have more information, I'll let you guys know. Otherwise, I'm sending over the XL Energy billings for the government center and for the neighbors. So I can start getting quotes on that, see what they can do, and we'll have a better idea of where solar would be for us. And where placement of the panels would go, because we really like this building here. We have to decide, find out what they'll see what our usage is, and then let us know how many panels we're gonna need, how much room that's gonna take up. Then we have to decide where we could place those. Of course, they bring up the idea of putting them on the roof. I don't know if I like the idea of putting them on, especially a building with a flat roof. Otherwise, they did bring up, like, for the neighbors about placing those on roofs because you have the different roof angles over at the neighbors. So once I get those over there, I'll get more information. I'll be able to bring it forward to you guys.
Go ahead. All right. Just kind of, so I've got some figures here for these solar projects. How many square foot are we talking on these solar panels, let's say for the highway shop?
As far as square
Foot, yeah.
of solar panels is
Yeah.
what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Of each one, you mean, or?
Just total square footage.
I don't know if
Let's
they
know
have,
the area.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have it broke down that far on here.
Well, one of the things I'm thinking about is the highway shop facing to the west. There's no windows or anything that I can remember. Now, this is on an old man's memory.
Yes.
Now, what about hanging them on the side of the building onto the west?
They, these panels would be facing more to the south. They'd be put on a 33 degree angle. They're gonna
Okay,
be fixed panels.
okay, so they really work best if they're set in the ground.
Yeah.
Now, if we're looking at the neighbors, which has parking lots, and we're looking at this building that has parking lots,
Mhm.
what about placing them high enough up to cover the parking lots? We already have the space. Just a thought.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if that's an option. So I can definitely
No.
explore, yeah. These
What's that?
would,
They tilt to follow the sun.
Yeah,
these would be fixed panels. They wouldn't
Or
move.
they would-
Yep, these would be fixed.
so I
Yeah.
mean, that would be,
But
I
yes,
mean,
there are
we've got
some
how
that
many
would-
square foot out here in front of this place?
Mhm.
And it's flat place, and we have a minimum of trees too, right? Or a few out there.
Yes,
And so just kind of a thought, kind of a dual use situation, as long as they can be done properly, so they don't interfere with snow plowing and
Mhm.
other things that have to happen along the way, but at the same time, that way we're not taking away lawn or things could be used for some other purpose somewhere along the line.
Yeah, it's, you know, again, I can explore options,
Okay,
definitely, as we move along with this.
okay. And the same thing, you know, we're always looking for some kind of storage at the highway department.
Yeah.
Covered storage, you know, might be some way to kind of look, you know, dual purpose kind of
Sure.
thing. This is what I'm thought.
Yep.
That's all. This is
Yep.
off the top of my head.
Okay.
Cause I remember reading something about how they did it in California or some other place
Okay.
where they put it over parking lots
Mhm.
and it was a win-win.
Okay.
So I know that there was some discussion I had with the highway committee. They would have some concerns with the location of potentially restricting future building. Most of the other counties around us have all built new highway shops, and it's probably only a matter of time before we will be doing something with either a new building or adding on a building and a car or a wash station and all that. So in the future, we're gonna have to account for some square footage and space for expansion of the highway shop. We have a lot of unusable land that cannot be built on, can't really do anything with it because of its location to the airport. So I just would hope that we could at least explore the option of putting these solar panels in a position where we're using up land that we cannot build on, we can't really do anything with, instead of the area where we can have a future expansion. We're so limited with the airport as far as any buildings going up.
Yeah.
So that would be probably my biggest concern about the location. I did have a couple of questions, but it looks like Don has one first. Don, did you have a question?
Well, I do.
ahead.
Well, I do, yeah, but you go ahead first.
I'll come back. Go ahead, Don.
Okay. Well, I just noticed on that quote you had 8-year payback, which is really pretty good considering we don't get any tax refunds or anything from the federal government. So I thought that was pretty good. I was wondering if there might have been an error there, because usually you see that up in over 10 years, but maybe I hope that's correct. As far as the comment on parking, putting them over parking, when we visited a air museum in Tucson, Arizona, they had the whole parking lot covered, and then the solar panels were up on the covering, which was really pretty nice. So we'd save some space that way too, but it would add to the cost because those structures have to be pretty rigid to hold those panels in place during a wind. The other thing is, I was wondering if, even if we do put them where you show on the map, is that going to interfere with the airport regulations? I guess we have to check that out with the city probably, because they've got some people there that are pretty knowledgeable.
Yep, that's something I have to dig into further as far as the airport. This company is telling me that, you know, that they haven't, they don't know of anything as far as a problem with airports, and that these panels do not move. So they're fixed in one location at, you know, at the 33 degrees, I guess. But yeah, that's all stuff in the future to look at.
Yeah.
As far as placement of panels, you know, where they'd be placed. Anything with interruption with the airport, that would all have to be discussed. As far as the highway, I would work with highway on that as far as any future plans of expansion and stuff like that. We would definitely, yeah, before we decide where we're gonna put some solar panels, we'd definitely look at the best place and get a decision made on that.
Yeah, just one more comment. We had a meeting this morning on our sustainability group, and the city has received a $141,000 grant it's the 80-20 funding, so they gotta contribute 20. They're going to use that money to upgrade all the equipment in HVAC equipment in the city hall. So there is money out there, and I think we need to really start looking around for it. This funding came from that the nonpartisan anti-inflation bill or whatever it was. But so they did get that. That's a pretty sizable amount. So that means they've got another 20%, so they're up around 160,000 or 180,000, something like that.
Oh,
Okay, I'm done now for a while.
I'm not sure, but when I read that report, it looks like they were accounting for a 30% federal tax rebate in their numbers for like
they were.
$92,000 reduction. I
Okay,
am not, without getting more in depth, but it does appear to me that we're probably looking at a 12-year payback, not an 8-year payback, which to me
Yeah,
is still
which is-
pretty reasonable.
still pretty good. Yeah, still pretty good.
Did you see that, Scott, or am I off base on that?
I did not see that, but I'm sure it's in there that
I think right in
So-
there, it's somewhere right in there with the federal, 30% federal.
federal credit of 97,000, 30%. Yeah,
Mm.
So maybe we can get a grant. So I have a question. That's, Don, maybe you can help me with this. XL will only allow how many kilowatt of solar panels at 100,000 kW per meter?
100, see, 100 kW, I think.
Per
I think
meter,
it's 100 kW, which would be 100,000 watts. But yet, then I think the one meeting we had with them, the way I heard it, we still couldn't have a outside financer come in if we got rid of any of the electricity that we generated. I think my impression is if you use all the electricity you get out of this equipment, then it looks like at least it's partially legal anyway. But I think we'll have to clarify that again. But it seems to me they talked about 100 kW, which would be 100,000 watts, which is about the size of the installation at the middle school. So that'd give you some idea of how much wattage is out there.
I thought, according to the graph in that report, that during the summer months, we were at like 16,000 kW. And it was 164,000 kW total. I'm not sure, or average, or is that, they said 164,000 kW. Or kilowatt hours.
164,000 is produced annually by solar.
So if we break that out, we're still way over the 100 kW. Am I getting my kWs mixed with my my watts and my kilowatts? Am I out of that was a question I have in my notes. I was just not sure how I was reading it. So, and that was my question, was if we're certainly not working through where someone else is putting it in. If we put it in ourselves and we provide more than a certain threshold of solar energy that we don't use, or if we produce so much, then the utility won't buy it back at the good rate, they'll buy it back at the poor rate. I think any of their.
I think you're right. I think you're right there. Yeah.
So if you're produce under a certain threshold, I think you can sell it back at what you would buy it for. But if you get too much, then you're selling it back for what they produce it at. So there's a fine line, and if you're using most of it, it's great. But and maybe it doesn't matter if you have it sized properly so that you can take care of the majority of your use and you're selling back more than you're buying, then you're only buying a small amount. So I still think you're better off if you're getting it paid for to put the panels in for the larger amount of KWs. But I think it's an issue that we should look into a little bit deeper, just to see with XL what their buyback rate is.
Well, the other thing we could consider too is, it seems as though batteries are coming down in price quite a bit. And we may want to even consider putting in some storage batteries, and then we wouldn't have to worry as much about over generating. I guess that's always a possibility.
Don, I got a quick question in regards to that. Are you talking about like backup generation, or, something that can be used at night, that type of thing, or what?
Just batteries that would store our excess, and then when it's a cloudy day or something, then we could use that up. It'd be a kind of a storage area.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
it'd be battery storage.
All right.
Say the lights go out, or the sun doesn't shine for a day or so, which is possible here, then we could rely on some of that.
This spring, that's for sure.
Yeah. But
Is-
that would get us around this problem of having excess electricity and not getting a decent price for it.
Is it feasible to install batteries on a solar system after it's been installed and up and running, or is that something that's better utilized installing at the upfront point? I guess that would be a question I would be interested
Yeah,
in cost on.
Yeah, okay.
yeah,
If batteries are coming down and we're producing more than if we're producing more than our threshold, I think those become options we may want to explore. If we're under our threshold, then it don't really matter. And
Yeah.
Don, a comment for you is if we can talk to XL and they maybe have some options for a bigger field that can be put in, then maybe those thresholds won't be applicable to us.
mhm.
That's my questions.
Just throwing something out there, is we've got a pretty good sized hill behind us here. If we have excess power, what about, water, a water battery, so to speak, or a liquid battery on top of the hill? And pump it up there when we've got excess power, and, let it run when we need it, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Just wondering if that's something like that might be of, because that can be turned on in an instant,
Mhm.
those type of.
There are
systems.
several ways of doing it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Just-
that would be one. Another, you could get real fancy and start creating hydrogen and then burn that in hydrogen powered cars or trucks.
or fuel cell, yeah.
Or fuel cells. Yeah. Mhm.
Bet you we could get that for that. Anyway, just a thought.
Go ahead, Ron.
You're talking about XL Energy, and where I live at, they got 4 power companies running lines by my house. They got Northern Power, they got Dunn Electric, they got XL and Barron. No one's ever talked about Northern Power, talking to them. Would they be interested? Or, I know Dunn Electric, that's kind of like a co-op, and the people in the co-op, they're the ones that can put their own money into it.
I think where our buildings are located, and I don't know this for sure, but I think that falls under the XL jurisdiction. Certainly something we'd have to follow up on, but like even Dunn Electric gets their power for that building out there from XL.
Yeah, but I thought they got their power from Northern Power Company, all of it.
That may be, it's way over my pay grade.
So they have the jurisdiction of everybody. So I think they can probably build it anywhere in Dunn County,
Who's that?
Northern Power.
I never heard of them.
I haven't either,
One that
yeah.
comes from Alma, Wisconsin.
That's not XL and,
Or that Dairyland now?
Isn't that Dairyland? That's where Dunn Energy gets its power from.
yeah,
Yeah, Dairyland Power.
Well, okay.
But-
Maybe I make.
I had no idea. That's a new name.
I remember Northern States.
Yeah,
Yes.
Me too.
okay, maybe I'm wrong on the name.
Okay,
But yeah, there's more than one power line running by my house. And then, like in Menominee, it's all XL,
Yeah.
but anywhere else in the county, there's a lot of space out there. And you could probably use other power companies to use that space.
well. We just approved 2 10-acre solar plans through the Board of Adjustment here this year for being built up in I think Hay River is one, and then over by Boyceville, I think there's another one. Those are Dunn Energy projects at this particular time, but they're set up near substations where they have the 3-phase power. And so connecting up our systems, is that something is there a substation nearby that we need, or is that we have to hook up to, or?
There's a substation out in the industrial park. It's the closest one to us.
Okay, so like within a mile? Or so?
Yeah, probably.
Okay,
Yeah, XL's substation is real close.
Yeah.
so I just wondered if that,
Beneficial for us if we do something there.
okay, all right.
Just thought. And do you have any input, comments?
So if we would put in a bigger field, would that cover, do we have any idea how much that would cover of our power usage? Like if we could put in a whole field?
Right at this point, we don't know. I've submitted the Excel bills to show usage for the highway department
Mhm.
is the only thing.
No.
I'll send over the ones for all 3 buildings and neighbors, and then the government center here and judicial center. And then see what they come back with there. That's something, if the placement of the solar field is gonna dictate your cost too, with running lines to the buildings. But yeah, as far as Dunn County, if you put in one big solar field and rent it to all the buildings, if you're able to do that, it might be something to that. I'm not sure. So I guess once I get all these bills over there, they can see what our usage is, see what they propose there, and I can have them come in and we can ask questions and get all of our questions answered. See what they have, then we can check with Excel and get all of our questions answered there, definitely.
The concept that you bring up is a neat concept because you put in this great big field and then you connect it to the power company, and then you're pretty much selling it back to the power company and then buying it back from them, which would be a nice clean energy way to do it. But I don't know what any of them options require or are allowed. So them are certainly things that would be interesting to get to the bottom of. Because once again, we do have a lot of space that we can't do much with.
So put a panel on. Interesting.
Any additional discussion on the solar? Is this something we want to move forward? Do we want to make any motion to move this forward to potentially get this on the CIP discussion at our meeting later this month or this weekend? Maybe, oh, maybe is it too late to do that?
Necessarily, it's just
Yeah.
hard without any numbers.
And we don't really have all the information either.
Right.
And I would be leery of trying to persuade everyone to buy into it without having the facts. I think that we
Yeah.
can make a strong argument once we have the facts and the payback and all that. And to me, it becomes a obvious option, but I'm not sure everyone would see it that way.
Well, I think a lot of people have to see what are you thinking, you know, big plan? Or just, you know, small ones for each individual facility, you know, all that kind of thing. And see if there's a difference. And again, funding,
Yes,
or we can do it piecemeal too.
Have we put ourselves in a,
Bigger.
are we handcuffing ourselves with not having the opportunity to piggyback onto the transit one by not trying to move forward? But if we move forward, are we moving forward unprepared would be a question I would ask you guys at this point. Ron,
We still haven't got our information yet from all this stuff, so that's one thing we're missing. We're waiting for data from all these power companies, and we have no idea where to start from till we have some data. And I think that would be, you know, it's been talked about for a long time. It's kind of watching paint dry, I think, you know. But I think you gotta get these power companies to start moving forward faster, you know, just. I don't know how you talk to them. I never talk to them, except when I have to pay my bill. That's when they talk to me.
do you have that? You have our usage information, correct, Scott?
all I have is our invoices, you know, that have our usage on from Excel. What Ron's referring to was the company we were talking with before out of Iowa that wanted to get the interval data, all that stuff. This company hasn't requested any of that as far as from Excel. So as I work with them more, I don't know that they would need to get any more of that information or not. I can definitely ask them about it when I talk to them again here.
So we're ready to go on that then. Yeah, it's worth a shot.
The company that had been discussed in the past for the last 6 years or so. That I believe I could check with Don, but that's still kind of held up in the courts. We're not really allowed to go that route of someone else putting it in. So the avenue that we're kind of looking at now is to buy them ourselves and get the payback instead of buying that was someone else putting in panels and then selling us the electricity at a discounted kilowatt amount. Where we're talking as with transit, where we're putting them in and getting the full value of the solar panels.
Cutting out the middleman.
Cutting out whereas that allowed us to get solar panels without putting any money out. But yet they were gonna reap a fair amount of the benefits out of it. So it's all how you try to get to your end goal, I guess.
So do we have funding to do the highway building, or is that something that needs to go into the capital improvement plan?
That's something that would go into capital improvement plan or any funding we can get, grant money, stuff like that. First step was to get quotes to see where it was, you know, what we're looking at dollar wise.
I think that, we gotta start somewhere, make it small, do one building at a time. I don't know, just get it going.
Where's transit at right now? Any idea where they're at in their process?
Their process has been delayed by some hiccups.
Okay,
So I don't know exactly where they're at, but I've been told that they're not close to getting that installed.
it's a definite maybe.
Yeah, I'll have to follow up on that to find out where exactly they're at, but I was told there was some hiccups that were running. into
All
it
right,
that-
so they're, us not coming up with what we need yet. We're not bumping up against any kind of a firewall, so to speak. with
Not at this
transit.
point.
Okay, all right. I think we got a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So then it's a consensus. I'm hearing that we need more information before we
Yeah.
start doing anything
All right.
halfway. Thank you, everybody. Any other comments? Okay, carry on, Scott.
Otherwise, I put in the 2022 annual report from the Menominee Shooting Range. Hope you all had a chance to look that over. They do a lot of stuff out at the range. They have a lot of people that come out there. They did a lot of work on the repair of the blue sky blocker out there. Showed a lot of pictures here of what they had to do. Documented all of the money that they put into that, and then included the letter to the builder of that they're trying to recoup some dollars, try and hold him liable for some of that stuff. So I don't know where they're gonna get with that, but it's all volunteers out there. They raise money, with people with memberships and donations and all that stuff. They do a great job. And then they included some drawings of their next project they want to do as far as extending their pistol berm out to allow for more pistol shooting out at the range. Which all this stuff, they've never asked the county for any money on this stuff. They've always raised the money themselves, done the work through volunteers or donations and stuff. And they have a great place out there for shooting. So I wanted to give you that report and show you that. And I'm sure that, if you get a chance, take a look at the plans that they have for that pistol berm. And if you have any questions, let me know. I can find out answers from them. And then they would look for the approval from the facilities committee to go ahead with that. They always ask for the approval of it.
I did not see that.
Oh, you didn't get that in there?
I didn't either. I was wondering.
Well,
Oh, just today?
think from Mercedes.
Oh, okay. Cause I kind of grabbed the old facilities list from maybe about a week ago or whatever, the packet.
And I probably deleted it or something, but I did not see that.
March 16th, you're seeing it. Yeah, okay.
I know their fundraising at the shooting range has been always successful. I know our sportsman's club made a donation a few years ago for $8,000 for the building out there.
Mhm. Sure.
And you did help quite a bit on that stuff.
So what I'll do is I'll send this out to all of you. And then you get a chance, take a look at it. If you have any questions between now and our next meeting, then let me know. We'll get the answers. And then we'll look at, giving them the blessing, the approval to go ahead with that. Do that. How's that working?
That information was sent out March 16th. I just looked it up. I did send it out. It is included in there. It's the last attachment in the emails. So just an FYI.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not, I don't know when they want to go ahead with this project. Sometime here in 23. But they don't have a set date as far as starting this project.
Do they have all the funding for it already or not?
I believe they do.
Really?
So, well, I can find that out too.
Just.
We'll give
curious.
you all the answers. I'll put it on the agenda for next meeting to discuss it. And really all they need is just the go ahead from the facilities committee that, hey, okay, we support this, go ahead with it. And,
Where are they gonna put it? I mean, that's a pretty packed spot.
they're gonna extend out the existing pistol berm, make it bigger.
Oh, okay, all right,
It'll be good.
all right.
And that concludes my report for this evening. If anybody have any other questions?
That park that wanted night shooting for one night?
No, that was Colfax. Yep, they did that last fall. Yep.
Anybody else?
Anything from Nick?
That's
No.
next.
Oh, all right. Sorry, didn't mean to jump the gun.
No problem.
Consideration for actions to be taken by the committee, camping in the parks.
We can do the transfer station one first.
Did I am sorry.
So leasing in the transfer station, Nick, that's a work in progress with Nick. He's, reaching out to another attorney to get information on that and, it's a work in progress. So no updates other than that. It's in progress as far as
Alright.
getting that information.
So I guess we just hold tight at this point.
Yep.
Now G,
Yep.
consideration for action to be taken by the committee, camping in the county parks.
And again, it's a work in progress. I talked to Nick this morning about that. He said that having that ready to go for April is doable. So I encouraged him to have that ready to go so that we would have something to have for the sheriff's department to enforce that. And I could get some signs up saying no camping. I could get the hours posted at the parks, stuff like that. So we're ready for the camping season coming up. So we look forward to hopefully having something next month.
Eventually, it's gonna become kind of important that we stop tabling it and move forward with something. Hopefully, we can start looking at that pretty soon. Consideration for reports, resolutions, or ordinance to be recommended to the county board by the facilities committee. We have none at this time. The next meeting date will be April 26th, 2023. Any comments, reports, or any other thing before we adjourn? Yes.
I think it might be helpful. I just had this conversation with Nick late last week, so I think it might be helpful with regard to the transfer station, sort of what the holdup is. Nick just really, so his concern about about the potential lease of that project is how do you establish responsibility for cleanup if the ground is contaminated without baseline information about whether the ground is currently contaminated? So if you lease it, if it's, let's say it's pure as the driven snow and you lease it and then it's contaminated at the conclusion of the lease or at point of sale in the future, who's then responsible for cleaning it up because you didn't know if it was contaminated before you leased it or not? And then sort of on the flip side, if it's contaminated now, in any fashion that would require cleanup, then it's leased without establishing that, then how do you determine who's responsible for cleanup? on the backside of that. And so I think, so he feels out of his area of expertise to sort that out. So he has reached out to another person who knows some things about some of that. It's sort of the second person. The first one sort of has not been terribly responsive, but he has been consulting with another attorney to just someone who knows a little bit more about that kind of work to just say, so we don't inadvertently step into something that we didn't intend to.
And Nick and I have had that conversation also with, yes, you know, at this point, you don't know how much contamination is in there. And with our plan to lease it out and someone to use it as a recycling facility, then if they're there and they contaminate it more without knowing how contaminated it is now, you couldn't hold them responsible for any future contamination because you'd not have nothing to go off of.
Yeah.
If I may? Yes. All right. Another point kind of comes to this is that when you're speaking of contamination because of the proximity to the other landfill, at this point, the question is did the landfill do it? Did our presence do it? If there is contamination, you know, there's really going to be a question in regards to that.
Yeah.
And I think that would beg the question, that would beg the issue of probably having to invest money to assess that before it could go out for a lease.
Where would you go to make that assessment? And who would bond that assessment?
Well, I'm just saying that I don't even know what that would cost or, you know, any part of it, but I'm just saying that I think that at this point in time, I would guess that Nick's recommendation is going to be that those steps be taken before the facility is leased. And that would require some investment of however much for however, you know, to whoever to do an assessment of that current level. If there's any contamination, what that is, and kind of give it a clean bill of health or a baseline.
I would say Stevens Point would be a good spot to go.
Yeah, with all of the environmental
Yeah.
focus. Mhm.
Yeah.
At the risk of maybe it's something we should begin to explore what the cost of doing some borings are. Maybe it's not that expensive to do some borings to see the status of, maybe we don't even have an issue that we're worrying about.
Right. True.
And if we spent $10,000 doing all the borings and testing and find that we don't have an issue, then maybe we
Price goes up.
yeah, absolutely. Maybe in the near future, we can begin to explore what it would cost to have it tested. My question would be, what would be the results if it comes back with contamination and we know about it? So before we test it, we should know what the consequences of testing it and having a bad result is.
Right.
As opposed to
And I
just
think
testing.
that's part of what Nick's concern is that he just does not have enough depth of knowledge in that area of specialty of that
Right.
to you know, to be confident to provide counsel on that without sort of learning the whole world of environmental law, which is this practice in and of itself. But yes, I think that is exactly, I think the hope is to find out what would need to happen in order for us to safely enter into a lease agreement without putting the county at future risk for something that it was potentially not responsible for.
What contamination are we worried about?
Well, just by the fact that essentially you dumped piles of garbage onto a floor that has some cracks, and I mean, it was a deteriorating building. So knowing what exactly would potentially be underneath the building, and then apparently, you probably Scott can speak to this better than I can, but apparently it's also downward slope to a small wetland.
Yeah, it actually created a wetlands because of the way the property, the way it was built, and the parking lot slopes toward that low area, and no storm drainage there. It just ran off and it created a wetlands between that and the other landfill that is behind it.
And this contamination, and if it goes past our property line, then what?
Right. That's part of the question.
Right.
Who's responsible for what and how did it come to be? And I mean, yeah. I don't know if your brain is doing this, but my brain is just sort of rounding up the dollar amount as we speak around. It was.
I know
like the gas pump.
I know that, we've all heard stories of, some place that has contaminated soil and they're forced to clean it up. And that might be part of it. I know when the city looked at putting in the retention pond at the rec park, that's off of the old county highway shop buildings. There was a concern there as to whether there was any contaminated soil. Luckily, that came back clean and no cleanup was necessary. But had that come back as contaminated, I'm sure Dunn County would have had to clean that up. And that would have been digging out that, to abate that soil out of there and put in some clean soil. At the transfer station, that would be a huge undertaking.
And again, I think it's really important to say, we don't know that it's contaminated.
Right.
We just don't know that it's not.
Right.
And so what do we need to, again, if you're going to continue to lease it, knowing that the facility itself has been deteriorating for a number of years, and was, talk prior to the discontinuation of that service, talk about replacing that facility, just if you think about what people likely toss, good, bad, and otherwise, I just think it needs to be ruled out.
Yeah. Sure.
Well, if you go to the Walmart parking lot, you test there, check that place out. Because I know that's contaminated. And I think a lot of areas already been affected by a lot of things so far, so I suppose there'll be like you said, baseline, So at least you know what you got.
Thank you for that input. Did you have something? I personally know a hydrogeologist, and she may know a company, facility, organization that may be able to have some direction on, either to give Nick a heads up or whatever. This person was hired by oil pipelines and has put them in for 30 years. And I think I might give her a call. Let's just see.
I think part of it is it's a little bit of the pre-work, as you say, around it's in my mind, as you sort of build the process, you'd think about identifying first about what are the pros and the cons of even identifying if you have a risk.
Yeah.
As Scott says,
Yeah.
if it's sort of don't ask, don't tell. If you don't know that it's there, then you go on with life and it sits there as it is.
Sure.
But if we want to lease it, then we're going to have to probably take some steps to figure that out. And then what are the potential consequences
Right.
to that?
And so the first thing would be cost of having boring samples done to find out if it's contaminated.
I think the
Which-
first question is,
What
what
do you
happens
do?
if you find out
Right,
through the
sure,
boring
sure.
samples and then making a decision at that point
Right.
about what's the balanced risk? And maybe it's a good thing to go hand in hand at that point in time with some idea about if it were, what might that cost
Sure.
to clean it up?
Sure.
But I don't think it's as simple as maybe perhaps we all hoped to just say, let's enter into a lease agreement. Someone will take it over this property. It's been used for the same purpose. And then, and I don't honestly know, because you would be transferring the management of that, even if the DNR has a spot to step into that in the permitting and
sure.
saying, new company coming in, we kind of fell under maybe grandfathering from the past. And so I just think all of those are like unknowns. And need some exploration.
But they have to level the buildings, so they have to move the dirt and all that stuff.
Who knows? Depends on the level of contamination, if
Yeah.
any.
Cause I got a brother-in-law that works in Montana and he's involved in that and they have a lot of gasoline, oil releases everywhere and they dig a lot of dirt. Move a lot of soil.
I suppose mine tailings, all that stuff.
All right. Any further discussion? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.